The Obsidian green pearl paint inside of the Nissan Pathfinder looks pretty sharp. This Pathfinder is the Platinum trim level, which is the highest available option, which means it has all of the available features you're going to find inside of the vehicle. Inside of the Pathfinder, you're going to find seating for 7 or 8 people, just depending on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. That's going to put it neck and neck with a few other vehicles this size, like the Ford Explorer, the Kia Telluride, the Hyundai Palisade, and a few others. If you want comparison videos between the Pathfinder and a few others, you'll find that down in the description of this video. But there are some pretty nice highlights about this two-tone paint specifically, because you can get a lot of the colors just as a flat paint, but this is the two-tone, and the two-tone paint gives you that green lower body, and then it's got a nice glossy highlight that follows across the top part of the body instead. Pricing wise in Canada, we're starting at about $50,000 versus in the States, the starting price point is $40,000, and that's going to go up just depending on which trim level of the vehicle you're in, which paint choice you've added, and a few other things. You're going to find either 18 or 20-inch wheels inside the Pathfinder. Since this is the Platinum trim level, these are 20-inch. Looking at the drivetrain of the vehicle, in Canada, we're strictly looking at all-wheel drive as an option versus down in the States, it starts front-wheel drive standard with the option of upgrading to the all-wheel drive system instead. Do you need all-wheel drive or are you okay with front wheel is going to depend on where you live. Realistically, even front-wheel drive in the wintertime is okay, but if you're in northern states or in Canada, Canada, we're all-wheel drive regardless, but if you're in northern states, you might want to look at the all-wheel drive option because you're going to get way better handling in comparison in the wintertime. Now, there also is an option for a trim level called the Rock Creek, and the Rock Creek features 18-inch beadlock capable wheels. There's off-road tuned suspension and a few other things, so if your plan is to take your Pathfinder off-road, the other trim levels will do okay, but the Rock Creek is probably the way that you should go if this is going to be more of a fun off-road and regular on-road vehicle. The front end style of the Pathfinder is pretty simple. There are LED headlamps with black bezels, and then there is the option for LED fogs in some of the higher trims of the vehicle. There's the forward sensing system available in some trims. The grille inside of this is pretty neat. There's a chrome highlight that wraps all the way throughout, glossy black highlight for the grille itself, and then just underneath the Nissan badge in some trim levels, you're also going to find a front-facing camera, and that pairs nicely to give you a full 360 view. Very useful if you're trying to get out of tight spaces or if your plan is to take this bad boy off-road. Underneath the hood of the Pathfinder, there's only one engine choice that's available, and that's this 3.5-liter V6 engine. It's paired with a 9-speed automatic transmission, and how that translates into power. This car has 284 horsepower and 259 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 100 or 60 miles an hour, so 0 to 60 in 3, 2, and 100. The engine here is on par with a lot of other vehicles in this class. I do wish, though, that Nissan had a performance edition of the vehicle. Like throw a turbocharger on top of that 3.5-liter V6, put it more in line with something like the Ford Explorer ST. But the performance that you get inside of this car is pretty good. When you look at the warranty in the Nissan world, it's pretty industry standard. Your basic is a 3-year, 36,000 mile, 60,000 kilometers. Powertrain is a 5-year, 60,000 mile, 100,000 kilometers. You just want to make sure, take it in for regularly scheduled maintenance and regular oil changes to get the best possible life out of your ride. Show us some love. The tail lamps inside of the Pathfinder do feature a little black bezel that wraps all the way around, and that glossy bezel follows throughout the mid part of the body. You've got the Pathfinder badge in the back, and I have noticed that a lot more manufacturers are shifting more to this style for the badge. There's a lot of standard technology you're going to find in the back end of the Pathfinder. So the rear park sensing system is always going to be there. So that's the beeping that you get as you back up. You're always going to have the backup camera and the rear wiper as well. You do have the option for factory towing inside the Pathfinder. It's got the 7-pin wiring harness and then the receiver. And then the overall towing capacity inside of the Pathfinder, you're going up to 6,000 pounds. which for a lot of other vehicles this size, it actually can pull more than the Ford Explorer, the Kia Telluride, the Hyundai Palisade, and a few other vehicles in this class. Nicely done. It's pretty solid. Then you also do have the spare tire that's located just underneath the vehicle. Getting into the trunk of the vehicle can be done a few different ways. There is a button to the left-hand side of the steering wheel. You can use the key fob to do it. Just underneath the F and the I in Pathfinder, you can also push there to open it up. And then there's also the option for a foot-activated power liftgate. So as long as you've got the key fob on you, you've got a handful of groceries, kids, or you just don't feel like pressing any of the buttons, just walk up to the back and kick. Up it goes. No, that's not standard across the board, but it is a very useful feature for the trim levels that do have it. Inside of the cargo area, there's nothing really off to the right side. Off to the left, there's just a little 12-volt power point. And then this is just the regular carpeted liner you're going to find from the factory with the option of going for a thermoplastic rubber tray instead. Go for the rubber tray if you're going to end up taking this thing off-road for muddy boots and things like that. At least do the floor protectors for the first and second row. That's one accessory I always recommend people look at. But lifting this up, you've got a nice amount of storage space here. Along the right side, there's also a little release for the spare tire that's located just underneath the vehicle. And then there's also a removable tray in order to get access to the jack stand. One of the nice things about being a Nissan owner is that you do have access to roadside assistance. And that's good for the same length as the basic warranty. So it's a 3-year, 36,000 miles, 60,000 kilometer coverage. And that's good for things like tire changing, fuel delivery, winching services, and a boatload of other features. So like I said, if you pop a tire, you could change it yourself or just call an 800 number to have somebody do it for you. Folding down the second row seats inside the Pathfinder is straightforward and it's manual, regardless of the trim level of the vehicle that you're in. So you've got a 60-40 bench, so it's 60 on the driver, 40 on the passenger. You just have to make sure you fold down those headrests first for maximum space. And then there's a tab along the top you're going to grab and push, and you can repeat the process along the passenger side as well. And folding down the second row seats is just done along the second row. So there's a button that you can push in order to get into the third row. Ugh. That's not the one we want to use. There's a lever that you can pull, and that is going to let you fold that seat down. And it's a 60-40 split, like I mentioned, so you can fold down one side or the other, but there is a great amount of cargo space inside this ride. And the cargo measurements that you're looking at are going from right where the liftgate would close to just in behind the armrest between the first row seats. So you'd lose or gain a couple extra inches of space just depending on how far forwards or backwards those first row seats are. Lifting the third row seats up is a manual process, so there's a strap that you can grab in order to lift up. Lift up those headrests, and same idea along the other side. It's straightforward. And then lifting up the second row seats is interesting because once the seat's folded down, it's actually locked into place. So in order to raise the seat up, that same lever that you would pull in order to drop the seat, you're just going to grab that again and lift up. And up she goes. Filling up fuel inside the Pathfinder is done just along the driver's side. Doesn't matter if the car is locked or not. It's an unlocked cover that has a capless system in it. But that capless system does feature anti-siphon technology. Looking at fuel quality, just regular 87. So regular fuel is all you need to use inside of this vehicle, which is fantastic. No use in putting 89, 91, whatever the case may be. You could, there's just no reason to do it and just save yourself a couple bucks at the pump. Front wheel drive is obviously going to get better fuel economy than all wheel drive, but even still, I took this on a road trip. So it was about, road trip. Picking it up, it was about a 60-kilometer drive, and combined for highway and regular city driving, I was averaging about 7.8 liters per 100, which is pretty solid fuel economy at the same time. But I was also driving the speed limit, and there wasn't much traffic on the highway, so those ideal conditions did give me better than stated fuel economy numbers. The side view mirrors inside of the Pathfinder do feature turn signals. There's a blind spot monitoring system, so if somebody's into the blind spot, that is going to highlight to let you know. These are technically also power folding, and then some models also do have an available camera there, and that's going to be part of that 360 camera. As long as you've got the fob on you, you can also push there to lock the doors, slide your hand in order to unlock. Yeah, okay. So starting off, you've got this nice stitching along the driver's side door with available memory as well. But it's memory not only for the driver's seat, but it's also going to be for the power steering wheel and for the side view mirror. But I'll show you how to set that one up in a bit. You've got your basic unlock lock buttons, side view mirror controls, power fold. The side mirror is there instead with your basic window control. It's also a nice little metallic highlight, and that wraps through the vents and a few other spots inside. So good amount of door storage, little Pathfinder scuff plate down there, and then power seats. So forwards, backwards, up and down. You can adjust the backrest, and then there's also four-way lumbar support as well. There are a few different types of seating material that you're going to find inside the vehicle. So it's either going to be cloth seats, leatherette seats, which is a faux leather. There are full leather seats, and then these, which are an aniline leather instead. Very, very nice look to them. On the insides, same idea, so that basic style, so that metallic highlight drops throughout the vent there. You can increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen. You can also turn on the steering assist when you use the adaptive cruise, open and close the liftgate, and adjust the head-up display, so toggle it on or off. Power telescoping steering wheel inside of some trim levels of the vehicle as well. But, ooh, this is nice. Let's do a little start up here. Nice. Oh, that's good. Okay. And while that's starting up, so with the driver's seat, there we go, as far down as it's going to go, up overhead with me sitting fully upright, there's so much space. Like 4.5, maybe 5 inches of head space. So like 6'6", maybe even a little bit taller, you'll be able to comfortably sit inside this vehicle. And like I said, the seat, actually, you know what? I even set it up for memory already. So that's one cool thing. So like I said, memory is available. You set your driver's seat up the way that you want to, the steering wheel the way that you want to, the side view mirrors, and then you hit set, and then either 1 or 2 for it to remember your own personal profile. Yeah, the steering wheel inside the vehicle is nice. There is the option for a heated steering wheel as well, and heated all the way around. You've got basic buttons to go through the cluster screen, and then this is going to be for, well, these are going to be for your adaptive cruise control as well. But if you want to walk through, like you want to know how to use the adaptive cruise control system, navigate through the cluster screen, or even use the infotainment system, you'll find a full walkthrough down in the description of this video. But one thing I love that this has, it's got a dedicated manual mode down here, which is kind of cool. So you can drop down one more level to get to that manual mode, but it's got paddle shifters. So you're minus on the left-hand side, plus on the right-hand side. So you can drop down in order to give yourself some boost if you needed to get in front of somebody, or use it for engine braking instead. If you've never used paddle shifters, it is so much fun. So easy to use at the same time. But I've put together a walkthrough video explaining how paddle shifters actually work. You can find that down in the description of this video. But I do have to say, they're very similar to the Infiniti QX60. I love the digital cluster screen that you're going to find inside the ride. It's good. I like it. Yeah. Basic screw sticks there. The infotainment system is going to be available inside the vehicle with factory navigation, as you can see there. And the factory nav, it's good. Fairly responsive, which is nice. But one nice thing is that you do also have the option of using Google Maps, Apple Maps, or Waze through the vehicle too. And that's by hooking up either Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. But through the screen, there are so many options for audio even. Like sources, you've got the option for AM, FM, Sirius XM. There's USB that's available, Bluetooth audio, so many options. But for Bluetooth audio, or USB audio, I should say, one cool thing is that, well, I've got this little adapter to go from USB Type A to USB Type C, but you could do either or, which is great. So let's just plug in here. And while that's loading up, there are 2 different speaker choices that you're going to find inside of the Pathfinder. So it's either going to be a 6-speaker setup standard, and then in some of the higher trims, it's going to be a 12-speaker Bose. Oh, the 12-speaker Bose, it sounds so good. I was listening to it on the way back from picking this car up, and it's really nice. But you can see speakers all over the place inside the vehicle. So I'm going to launch into some USB music for a second here. And the audio that we're listening to is coming right out of the microphone, so there's no post-processing done whatsoever. So dramatic. A little bit of this, a little bit of classical music for you there. But let's go to a little bit more of like a rock rappy type of a song instead. That's going to give you a better indication of what it's actually like listening to this. All right, so here we go. And same idea. So this is just coming right out of the microphone here. So there's no post-processing done whatsoever.
They tell me that I'm never gonna make it. They want me to do something that could make sense. They hate when I keep dreaming I'll be famous.
This is so ridiculously good. The audio is just like pumping inside of this car right now. So again, there are so many speakers, like 12 speaker audio system. It just gives really, really good audio. So if audio is your thing, you could do something aftermarket if you're in a lower trim, but the audio quality inside of the 12 speaker Bose, I think, is pretty solid at the same time.
So get a good job, don't slack off, wake up every morning.
Solid. You've got a series of basic buttons there, including the option for a full 360 camera. I would like to see the camera quality get increased a little bit. I don't think that it's really the best quality, but it's nice that there's a 360 camera there with the option of shooting out to those side cameras there instead. Straightforward. And then you've got the sensing system as well, so that beeping that you get as you get closer to obstacles. You've got at least dual zone. I guess it's technically tri-zone because you can also control the rear as well. So if you wanted to adjust climate for the rear or lock it out, you'd have that available as an option, which is great. Mentioned the heated steering wheel, and then there's also the option for heated first row seats and ventilated first row seats. I love me those ventilated seats, especially for summertime. So useful. And then from there, just some basics for your climate control. Mentioned you've got 2 USB power points. There's a 12-volt power point, and then also a wireless charge pad. The shifter inside the vehicle is different, but it does feel pretty good in the hand as well. Like that. Backup camera there. Same idea. It's okay. The quality's okay. It could definitely be improved a little bit, but still, it's at least visible, which is nice. From there, you've also got your parking brake, auto hold, and then the auto start stop system. So that's the one that's potentially going to kill power to the engine if you're stopped for an extended period of time. And then there are also, well, you've got your downhill control, and then there's also a series of selectable drive modes there. Look at that. So you've got your sport mode. Love it. Sport mode holds onto the RPMs a little bit longer. So rather than it shifting at, let's say, like 2,500 RPM, it might shift at like 4,000 plus RPM instead. Gives you an infinitely sportier performance in comparison. Yeah, so many useful modes. If you're going to be going off-road, you've got your mud ruts mode, sand mode, and things like that as well. Or you can just leave it in the auto mode to let the vehicle determine what the best mode is for your current driving circumstances. But I love that this is available. I like that little Pathfinder highlight. There's another one too along the dash on the passenger side. But lifting this up, it's non-lockable, but you've actually got a surprising amount of space. Like I'm half wrist deep there. It's impressive. The dash, you've got that same highlight, so that leather stitching along the dash there on the passenger side matches what's going on at the doors. Up overhead, there's an auto-dimming rear view mirror that also does feature HomeLink. So if you've got a garage door opener at home, you can program that in. From there, there's a sunglasses holder, all of your basic controls for your cabin lights. And then there's also, look at that, sunroof. Full panoramic sunroof. Surprisingly, in most trim levels of the vehicle as well. Look at that. Just opens it up so nicely. And then you can push up if you wanted to vent it out, and then push away to open it instead. But I mean, that just opens it up so nicely. And then hold on, from the outside here, you can see, so you've got a little bug guard, but it actually drops down and in instead of up and over. A little bit more aerodynamic there, which is nice. And then, oh, there we go. Single button press in order to close. There's an SOS, so like call for help for tow. From there, you've got a little ticket receipt holder. The vanity mirror has a light built in there. So once you get to that perfect position, and then this is going to extend out to block all the sun. And I like how they made sure that they mentioned it is a sliding visor. You've got a little assist handle along the driver and the passenger side in the first row. But Like I said, overall comfort is good. One other nice thing, it's like staring me right in the face right now. Like that. Head-up display. Extremely useful. You can see the vehicle speed there and then other things. So if you had a route going, that would also show up. But it's not obtrusive at the same time. But there's one thing, and that's if you are wearing sunglasses that are polarized, it does make it a little bit tricky to actually see. So hold on, I'm just going to grab my sunglasses there, drop them in front of the camera. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so you can like barely see. Once you've got when you've got the head-up display on it with polarized sunglasses, it's pretty tricky to see, but that's going to be the same for every manufacturer. So it's not just Nissan. I don't think I've seen a clear head-up display with polarized sunglasses on at all. But like I said, comfortable seat overall. And with the driver's seat set up this way, let's hop back to that second row and see what's going on. The color scheme is kind of neat. Like there are two different options that are available. This is the charcoal interior. There's a lighter one. But I mean, honestly, like with this green paint, it honestly almost looked green for a second when I first picked this thing up, but it's not still. All right, hopping inside. Okay, second row. So yeah, with the driver's seat set up for myself being 6 feet tall, in the second row, good amount of foot space and knee space. And up overhead, with me sitting fully upright, I've got 2.5, about 3 inches, I would say roughly, of head space. But one nice thing is that there's a lever along the side. So the one that we would use in order to fold the seat down, you can also recline it back so much. Oh, that's comfortable. The seat is actually surprisingly comfortable inside of the second row here too. Oh, this is really nice. Really nice. Oh, hold on, I'm just adjusting the climate back here. I'll show you that one in a second, but yeah, really comfortable. And like even with the seat more like further forward, so like as far forward as it's gonna go, it's tight. I could still do it, kind of like that happy median in between. There are pockets behind both the driver and the passenger side. And then you've also got controls for the second row climate, which is great. So you can adjust the fan speed there. Do you want to turn on the heated seats for the vehicle? And it's going to be heated on the outboard seats. So this is obviously the dual captain's chair setup. There is the option for a bench seat instead. So you're always going to have 2 seats, or 3 seats in the back, I should say, with 2 seats in the front. And then you're either going to have 2 or 3 seats in the middle here instead, which is great. Yeah. Comfortable though. It is kind of nice because you've got some storage and cup holders and things like that there. And then down low, you've got a few USB power points, so USB Type-C and then a typical USB. And then there's also a 150 watt wall plug back there too. Moving off to the side, you've also got bottle holders right in the door. Ah, so useful. And then a few more down below as well. And then there's also this little feller. So manual sunshade, and that's along the driver passenger side in the second row. Up overhead, there's a little handle. You've also got your vent control overhead there, and then there's a little light, and that's the same story for the passenger side there too. Getting into the third row is straightforward. So this is the dual captain's chair setup. You can't really easily hop back to that third row. I mean, a little one, you might be able to throw them into the back from there, but, well, I mean, even speaking of that, there's the anchor points there as well. And then pushing the button here, slides the seat forward, and then you've got the top tether point as well. But hop it inside. Ooh. And that's not challenging by any stretch. And then hold on, watch this. So I'm going to go as far back as the seat will go. So with the seat as far back as it's going to go, yeah, no dice. Super uncomfortable, yeah. But with the seat in more of like a realistic position there, that's still super tight. So could you fit an adult back here that's 6 feet tall? Yes, but I mean, for distance trips, it's not going to be comfortable by any stretch. It is available though. And then up overhead, with me sitting fully upright, about an inch and a half roughly of head space. Now, the third row seats, slightly uncomfortable. The one cool thing about them is that there's that tab along the top, and you'd use that in order to fold the seat down. But you can also grab it, oh yeah, look at that, in order to recline. And when you recline, it's about the same, about 1.5 inches roughly of headspace or so, but still, having the seat reclined is really, really nice. Yeah, seats back here, not quite as comfortable as the second row. But shooting out to the middle seat, oh, that's not overly comfortable. Hold on, let's recline that one as well. Yeah, this middle seat in the third row is not comfortable by any stretch. The seatbelt forward is just up overhead there. There's also a little light on top of that. You've got your vent control for the third row, some cup holders, and then a USB power point along both the driver and the passenger side. You can see a little speaker there as well. But hold on, let's see this seat. I've got it as far forward as it's going to go. So if you have the seat as far forward as it'll go, there's more than enough space there. So great amount of knee space, but that's also going to affect the second row space there too. So could you do it? Yes, but I mean, third row space, a little bit tight inside of this ride. Now, getting out of the vehicle is straightforward. So, I mean, obviously the seat's already pushed forward there, but you just hit the button in order to release. There's also the option of folding down the seat using that tab instead. If you wanted to. That was a mistake. And then hopping outside. Not too challenging from the third row. But this Pathfinder 3.5 liter V6 engine. Let's take her out for a spin and have some fun. The performance. Oh, the handling is pretty good. Now, this is obviously the all-wheel drive version of the vehicle, so it's going to have better handling in comparison to the front-wheel drive version. But still, that's going to bring a smile to your face for sure. The vehicle is really comfortable as well. That's one thing that I do like about it. Now, these ones are leather seats. You've got the option for leatherette, so faux leather, and then cloth seats as well, just depending on the trim level of the vehicle that you're in. But yeah, the leather seat, that is pretty nice. Handling wise, on ramp here, 70 is pretty good. I've not really much to complain about here. The cabin inside of the Pathfinder is surprisingly quiet. Like, surprisingly quiet. There's actually not much road noise inside of here at all. That's something that I could live with. I don't even have the radio going right now because that's something that you would typically use to drown out any road noise. And like I said, there's not really much. That's pretty solid. That's nice and relaxing. That's pretty nice. It's the 12-speaker Bose audio system that does it. Like, if you're a fan of audio, the Bose in the higher trim levels of the vehicle is really solid. And that was a look at the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. You can find all of the build details and links off to Nissan Canada and USA down in the description, along with all those tech walkthroughs to use the steering wheel buttons, the cluster screen, and the infotainment system. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone if you think they might find it helpful. And until I see you next time, take care.